Nvidia can now sell advanced AI chips to China, but there's a catch. Australia just banned social media for kids under 16. And honestly, this could be the end of social media as we know. I feel like banning is
Too much.
really tough. Disney's backed this partnership with about $1 billion of equity investment in OpenAI, and OpenAI will become the core AI infrastructure partner of Disney. Disney became the first major content partner for Sora.
Welcome back, Rush Hour Podcast. Another week. We've got a bunch of tech news. I'm TW. This is Justin. We've got a bunch of crazy news today. OpenAI, Disney. What's up with that? Like, is that going to change Hollywood? We've got China and Nvidia strike a deal on chips. How's that going to play out? And lastly, Australia bans social media for kids under 16. What are the ramifications of that? We're two non-technical guys talking about the tech industry. We've got 30 plus years in the market. It's a lot going on. We want to jump right into it. All right, let's talk Disney. Justin, what you got?
Yeah, so here are 5 ways that Disney and OpenAI, this deal will change Hollywood forever, which has been crazy. So Disney became the first major content partner for Sora, which will now license over 200 characters from Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars for AI-generated short-form video. So essentially, fans will be able to create and share AI-generated social videos made from Disney IP with curated selections that will also stream on Disney+. Disney's backed this partnership with about $1 billion of equity investment in OpenAI, and OpenAI will become the core AI infrastructure partner of Disney, allowing them to plug into their APIs to build new products, and will give all Disney employees access to ChatGPT internally. This is a huge deal because it really marks the strategic shift of what we've seen in the current landscape of like AI litigation to really licensed collaboration. And big picture, Disney is beginning to basically seeing the forest of the trees of what's happening in the market and choosing to control and monetize AI-driven fan creativity as opposed to try to stifle or fight it. And so it sets up a new precedent for the industry. And what's really interesting is last week we talked about what was going on with Netflix and their partnership and their acquisition of Warner Brothers. We'll see if that actually goes through. But a big piece of it was around thinking around like long-term, being able to have that IP, being able to allow users to manipulate on the platform. I had a LinkedIn post that went out. There were a lot of discussions back and forth around the viability of other deals like this happening. If companies would allow individual consumers to get access to their IP and what they can do with it. And it looks like this is where the industry is heading, that they kind of see people want access to this IP. They want to be able to manipulate it in different ways. And the fact that Disney, which probably has the most iconic IP, is making this type of partnership is a huge generational shift within.
So it sounds like what you'll be able to do is upgrade your Sora to get access to the Disney IP, and then you get to create things against it. Is that kind of how you read it, or do you think it's unlocked for free? You use it, and then Disney owns it.
I think it's probably going to be a combination of both. I think there'll probably be like a free tier where you get access, where it's watermarked, and they just want people with the Sora watermark posting it on TikTok and Instagram, et cetera. Kind of like what they did when they first unlocked Sora and had like Jake Paul and Sam Altman there. But I think the other piece is if you want to take off the watermarks, or if you want to maybe even have access to more characters, or you want more volume of creation, then you probably pay even more. Similar, like kind of like a ChatGPT Pro plan. I think that's probably what some of the monetization piece will look like. But imagine all of this additional two things that really stand out to me. One, imagine all of this additional data that Disney will now have access to through this partnership with OpenAI to kind of curate the stories or narratives, creativity. The other piece is they now have an army. They already had a fan army, but now they have a fan army that has access to their IP and can use it kind of however they want with some guardrails that are in place. I think a key point is that they have guardrails to just expand, enormous creativity and also create the most inexpensive marketing engine that they've ever had access to, right? Like they don't have to work with, editors and long form clippers, et cetera. They're just giving people access to the likeness, and then everyday consumers can this content and then put it over whatever platform they want.
And I like the enterprise piece that you mentioned, which is internally Disney will now have access to these tools to make content and riff, and as they're probably developing storylines, it's probably be really efficient. Plug in the upcoming movies and see how it looks and feels, and give pitches and demos and storyboards. Will probably make life a lot easier, and not having to worry about ChatGPT is going to steal all of my info. Now they're partnered with them. They get an internal system with probably tons of CPU and leverage. So it seems like a win-win.
It
I
seems
do
like a
like it.
win-win. It seems like a win-win. But if I'm taking a devil advocate point, and I'm a someone who's in and around the kind of creative space, if I am a producer, like a creator of content, editor, VX,
Yep.
etc. And I'm in this space now. I'm like, Disney, what the heck, man? Like,
Right.
is this
Right.
actually good for creation? There were a lot of people who wrote, and I think aptly so on my post. Well, is it really creativity if someone's just prompting, right? Like, are we just sucking the creativity out of everything? And I think it's a fairish point, but it's where the industry is trending, and you're also just opening up the aperture for like an entire new class of creators. I think the way that we think about
Yes.
creation is just going to be different, and everyone, that's just a fact
Yeah, I
of
mean, the
marketplace.
internet is undefeated for a reason. I mean, it's the most hilarious, it's the most creative. And a lot of times it isn't. They don't have the tools and the IP to make it. Now they do. Right? Now you're breaking down barriers, so the average person who may be very creative or very intuitive with this is not going to have tools to maybe make a mock-up of something, or an alternate ending, or a trailer, or whatever. It seems to me like it could obviously go sideways. They can make
Oh,
some
for sure.
terrible content,
There's going to be
and
a
do.
lot of slop. I think it's probably
Yeah.
going to be like 95% slop,
Right.
5%, like 4% really good content, 1% exceptional content.
Right.
And what I'm most excited about is, you have a fan, maybe has some background in creative arts, who's playing around with these tools. It makes something that goes viral 4 or 5 years from now. Disney says, we want to actually make that into a theatrical movie.
Right.
And
Right.
imagine like the story around that. Imagine what it opens up in terms of other people being able to create. I'm really excited about that future. But I think before we get there are going to be some missteps, and there's going to be a lot of
Yeah.
crap.
There's going to be a lot of slop, as you said, and probably like jumping the shark moments where you're get inundated with the same content, and like you don't want to see it anymore. And when Disney does launch something, you're like, I've already seen every iteration of that on Sora. I don't want any more of this content. I've seen all possible, for
Yep.
sure. And then on that front, the Nvidia news, like, that transition was tough. What's going on with Nvidia in the China deal?
So NVIDIA can now sell advanced AI chips to China, but there's a catch. The US will allow the NVIDIA to export H200 like AI chips to China, but will also impose a 25% government fee because,
Oh wow.
Trump and the current administration, anytime there's a deal to be done, they got to get
Yeah.
their coins. And so this move really represents a compromise strategy, which will allow China to access kind of the second tier US chips, not the Blackwell chips, but at the same time allow entry back from Nvidia into that market. So
Yep.
the shares rose at that news, and I think that what some critics warn is that this could strengthen China's military and surveillance capabilities. But I think the real story is, at least for me, within the context of like Silicon Valley and founders and deal making, is all pay to play right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is all pay to play, and like that's just the deal. And I don't know if that is the best setup for a long-term success for earlier stage companies. Like the benefit now is, hey, if NVIDIA and all the Mag 7, all these hyperscalers are propped up based on this deal making, and there's just more dollars and revenue that can encourage more investment, that's good. But longer term, if you have these incumbents who become these untouchable companies where there can't be any competition because of the deal making, that doesn't help the long tail of other startups and innovation. So I don't know. What do you think? Like, what do your opinions on this type of deal making?
I'll take it to a really grassroots level. Just as the name Jensen Huang is, he's obviously Chinese, and then having him in the middle of this like war of America versus China, and a lot of people are probably wondering which team is he on, because he's obviously made his from China originally, and obviously went to Taiwan and came, but like he's American. He's an American businessman. He's made it here, but like I'm sure that it's out there. Like, hey, he's going to help China too because he's part Chinese. He's got Chinese roots, and then he's kind of a middleman with this. It feels
Yeah.
like you said the money is green when it funnels through into America. So I don't think he's too concerned about it. Like, truthfully, he's like, hey, I'm trying to build AI. We're trying to build our chips. Whoever wins, we're gonna win.
Yeah.
It's kind of the vibe that I get. Like, I wonder how he honestly feels about it. Like, does he want any particular country to have an edge in this, or does he not care? It's like, hey, whoever builds the best AI, you're just going to get support. That I have no idea. I wonder what is your thought on that?
Jensen specifically, like, kind of led
Yeah,
this
like
one.
where, I mean, as a company, do you think they care? Like, they're an American company, but obviously they do a lot in Taiwan. Taiwan obviously has its own battle with China as well. But
Yeah.
like, what are your thoughts? How
I
does it
think
all play
that,
out?
yeah, I mean, how it all plays out is these companies are publicly traded. I mean, Nvidia is a publicly traded company.
Yep.
First and foremost, Jensen has a fiduciary responsibility to his shareholders. So
Right.
he's trying to increase shareholder value as much as possible because that's just his job
Facts.
as CEO. Also, if he wants employees to retain and have the smartest people there, they need those stocks to continue to go up in order
Yep.
to keep them. So I think he's just playing
Whatever works.
whatever game works at the time, man.
Yeah.
And if there's a new administration or a new cultural context that comes in, everyone's just trying to bob and weave, make it work. And I think at that level, this is something that I think I sometimes lose sight of, which is, you have all these designs of what you think these leaders should be doing. They reach a certain prestige and
Right.
wealth, et cetera, but they're beholden to the shareholders in their board and everybody
Right.
else, right?
Yep.
So like, there's always going to be that balance that's there.
I mean, I hear all these battles of the AI race, U.S. versus China, and whoever wins is going to take over the world. To me, that seems pretty hyperbolic. Like, it's
Mhm.
more about building. Both of them, yes, are building it to their advantage, but it seems like there's going to be a world where they both can coexist. It's not necessarily they're taking over the world when they hit whatever we now consider AGI and super intelligence. I don't know, that marker seems to move all the time, but yeah, it's hard to tell at this point. But yeah, both. I haven't used DeepSeek. Maybe that's another podcast for another day when we compare DeepSeek to Gemini and ChatGPT, Grok. That's probably something we'll have to do. Let us know in the comments if that's something people are interested in. Um, Anything else on that front, or should we jump to Australia?
I'm excited to talk about Australia.
Yeah, let's
We
do
don't
it.
talk about Australia much on this
Yeah,
podcast,
for
but
sure.
now we have a reason to do it. So Australia just banned social media for kids under 16. And honestly, this could be the end of social media as we know it.
Right.
So Australia is the first country rather, to ban social media for children under 16. And for companies that kind of against this ban, they can be fined up to $50 million. The ban applies to TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, Reddit, a few other platforms. It was effective immediately. And what the Australian Prime Minister framed it as was like a great cultural reset for the country, aimed at curbing mental health harms for youth, bullying, misinformation, etc. And they've already begun enforcement, killing, and teens' reactions are pretty mixed. Some are like, hey, farewell to our 16, we'll be back. Others are like, hey, we got VPNs and we'll get back on here,
Right.
relatively quickly. But it's the first, real world test of governments meaningfully restricting youth access to
Intervening.
social media at scale. And so if other countries follow suit, you're in, consumers are already very difficult, but man,
Yeah.
it's like even crazier on hard mode now. So
Yeah.
where do you come out on this? I mean, obviously we both have kids.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you to hear about and the limiting of video games and like hitting so many hours, and then sort of like throttling back the games and access, and phone won't work. So like, it seems like this is an even more extreme, like just no social media.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of go kick both ways on it. I completely understand. It seems like, yes, this is what we need. But at the same time, you're just delaying what inevitably is going to happen, which is they're going to need to deal with social media in their life, and you're just delaying it till they turn 16. Like 16 is an arbitrary number. At some point in your life, you're going to have to deal with social media, and does that put them behind as versus the rest of the world where their kids
Yeah.
don't know how to deal with it and they have a shorter time period? I don't know. I don't have an answer. We're going to find out. Like, does that matter? My guess is it's a good thing. It's gonna, you hear, especially from like 12 to 16, the brain develops in a certain amount of way, and like us old people often say we didn't have social media back then. We
Yeah.
figured it out, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out for them. Like, is it possible that this is just a bunch of old boomers trying to figure out a way to recreate their childhood for the next generation? I don't know. It's possible because we don't have answers on what happens long term with the way social media is kind of changing and growing. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that like anything else, whether it's video games or watching violent movies or whatever it is, like parents have some responsibility to manage what their kids are consuming. Do I think that that should be a total ban on social media? I feel like that's a bit draconian.
Yeah.
That being said, it has driven like social media. There are a lot of harms that have been driven by social media.
Yes.
At the same time, I think there's like a slippery slope free speech thing that comes into play here, where it's like, okay, creating this arbitrary age for social media consumption. Let's saying you can't use it before you're 16. Okay, so until you're 16, you want to put an opinion out in the world, to get traction on it, and like young people, especially within kind of like that, I said 12 to 16 age gap, like they start to form real opinions that could shape the world, and like will they not have access to it? And I'm not saying
Yeah.
that I'm entirely on one side or the other, but I do
Right.
think it can be a slippery slope piece
Yeah.
there. And I don't think working at companies like Discord, Twitch, there are a lot of meaningful interactions that come from people having these digital communities that aren't just harmful. I don't think it's entirely black and white, where it's, I
Right.
think there are areas of gray here. This may be a way for Australia to kind of get at this area of grayness, but just saying, hey, it's too complicated and people's minds are still forming. So we're just going to say you can't use it. But I don't think that there's like one approach and one strategy of doing it.
Yeah, that's fair. It is a hard one though. Like when you look at social media, you know, when TikTok started, it was for young kids. When Twitch started, it was for young kid. Like they all aged into being a demographic, but out of the gate, the things that are hot and cool are generally started with people under 16. So
Yes.
I'm curious, like, what's going to happen with this? If is Australia just going to be slower to the sort of, I don't know, zeitgeist or next, especially in the tech world? These TikToks and things are often viral and first in that age group, and they're
Yeah.
going to miss out on it. Yeah,
Yeah, and I think that's why, it was a bit hyperbolic at the start where I said this could be the end of social media as we know it,
yeah.
but it really could. You don't, to your point, you don't see, and we spend a lot of time in and around the space, at the earliest stages and with, some of the largest, most prominent companies within social consumer. But typically those companies start, like you said, with the young demographic. So if you're not appealing to that demo or started by people who are from that demo, then you're just not going to have new products.
Yeah.
Um, you know, coming from them, which is the heart of social media, which is from the younger consumer.
So on the flip side, the benefit is what? They'll have more social skills. They'll talk to each other in real life. They'll share shared experiences. Maybe they'll have more fulfilled childhoods. I mean, that like
I think
as
it's
an
going to be
upside, that's
yeah, I think
it's
it'd be an
real.
interesting case. I think that is
Yeah,
real. I think there's like bullying and other things that go on. I can't imagine if social media had been like proliferated as much as
yeah,
when and I'm than you, but and I grew up really. Social media kind of started with Friendster and MySpace toward the end of my high school years, so I didn't grow up with it for the whole time. But even that started to become yeah, more a thing. I could definitely see how it was impacting me. So I can't entirely, understand what it's like just growing up with it forever and the there. But I guess it's going to be a test case. And if we go back to a more antiquated time of not being online, are the lives and mental health of these kids better? And if they maintain this ban, then we'll see.
And what are you gonna do? Personal question in terms of your growing up when there's like, I want to be on social media. Are you gonna limit them? Are you gonna ban it? Or what? Like, I think I know the answer, but how are you gonna manage that?
I feel like banning
Too
is
much.
really tough before a certain age, right? I think it's like, especially when they're teens, right?
Yeah,
I'm like teen, not necessarily before that, because before that, I'm thinking just phones and access, and I want to curtail that. But like when they're teens, not giving them any access to social media,
tough.
I think that's going to be kind of tough, because kids will kind of figure out ways to do it. And if you ban some, you say you can't use it, then like I think the way our human brains goes, like, how do I figure out how to do that thing?
Yeah,
So
right.
I feel like it has to be some type of moderation, but I'm sure a lot of other parents are watching this, just looking at me like, you are so naive. So we'll see as we get closer to.
Yeah, I don't know how you stop. I was thinking about that too. I go back and forth all the time with, well, you know what? They should start early and understand the impact and
Yeah,
learn in trials and tribulations with it. And if you post something um, that you're not proud of, it's a learning. It's a learning that you'll get and you'll delete. I think that generation is going to be much more, you know, I don't want to say forgetful, but they're gonna allow a lot more of their leeway when it comes to, he used to do that. It's fine. Everybody used to do stupid things. And they'll probably be more versus our generation who hadn't seen it much. If you
mm-hmm.
post something wild on social,
Getting
it's a
canceled.
yeah, that's it. Like, whereas I think the younger generation, if you say something wrong or you do something, it might be 1 week where you're embarrassed and then it just blows over. But
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. I don't have an answer yet. My daughter is
I
12,
was going to ask about
so
your
it's
daughter's
getting close.
right in that
You
age
know,
group.
we
Yeah.
did this Christmas. I got this Christmas ornament where it's a voice recorder, and you record for as an ornament. You record their voices. At that age, I was like, I just want to record your voice. So tell me what you want for Christmas, and they said, here's what I want for Christmas, and then you store it. But of course, she wanted a phone, so it's it's
Yeah.
on Christmas tree at age 12 that she wanted a phone. So
All right. Well,
yeah,
are you going to get her a phone? That's that.
I'm not doing it, but maybe my wife will cave. But I think at some point we get her phone.
Yeah.
Like it makes for safety too. Like you want to see where you're if you need something they can call kind of thing.
Totally.
Yeah, I generally trust her to figure it out. That's the mentality with all of it. Like, hey, go crazy now and then you learn, right? If you
Yeah.
can't sleep and don't do well, then we're going to find out like this is too much for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some stuff that's irreversible. I completely understand where you can't do that, so we'll see. I'm up in the air about it, but
Yeah, it's that's what I've learned. Your kids are obviously a little older, but like it's an evolving process.
it
It's
is. And
hard to
things
have
keep
like
changing
one
with all of these
definitive
things,
answer.
so like
Yeah,
you just don't know. But anyway, all right. I know you got a meeting to jump to. Appreciate your time today. Make sure you follow us, like, subscribe. I'll put all that in the link below in the description below, and we'll catch you next week.
yes, sir.
All right,
Always
just
fun.